This video will be a demonstration on how to use special effects in Adobe Premiere Pro to create VR video and make VR video art. This is primarily for 180-degree stereoscopic video. This could also be applied to 360-degree as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some VR video, 180-degree stereoscopic, using Insta360 Studio. And I've taken video with the Insta360 EVO camera. So I'm going to open files that it has produced. I'm going to open these right here. I'm going to import my media. If I want to cut off the ends of this video and not get the entire video, I can move left and right here, and I can move the playhead to see, like, there's my fingers in the right side. I'm going to get that out of there, cut that off. We'll very quickly look at the controls on the right. So this stabilization, you can leave the flow state stabilization on. I think it's useful. The direction lock will try to keep the horizon at the horizon. If you shoot some interesting video, let's say you're looking at your feet, looking at the floor, or you're laying on a bed looking up with the camera, you might want to turn off the direction lock if you'd like that to look as it appears when you shot the video. If you leave it on, it's going to try to keep the horizon where the horizon is, so it's going to change your video. So uncheck that if you've done anything except for standard shooting. Next one down, you can leave alone. The next one down here, if you want to add color plus, it will enhance the color a little bit. I generally leave it off because I think it looks more realistic to just leave it at it as it was shot. But if you want to enhance the color, you can. You leave it as horizontal 180, left and right, that's side by side. If you are importing this into 360-degree video that's also stereoscopic, you'll want to export it as vertical 180, left eye on top, because that will fit the format of the 360 video. Next one down is the audio mode. We'll leave that alone. You could turn on noise reduction if you wish, if there's some noise in the background you'd like to get rid of. You can make it voice focus, and it will try to amplify the voice. Next one down, we don't need to see a watermark of time. And we're going to use the entire region. And I can hit create new clip. And then go back and make the next clip without having it process anything just yet. So again, on this clip, I think I'm going to cut the tail and the head of it just a little bit. Just kind of see what I have here. And I'm going to also say create new clip. Now here in the task center is where it's going to show the exported clip. So I'm going to hit export now. And I'm going to change the name. It's something that makes sense to me. I can tell it where to go. I've already told it to go into a folder called Stitched. The other stuff I can leave alone. I'm not going to change anything on this. And I'm going to hit add to queue. And then on this one, I'll do the same thing. Export. I'll call it trail. And the reason why I'm saying add to queue is so that all the processing will happen at once. So I'll hit start export. And I'm going to look at my queue here. It looks like I've done rocks a couple of times here, so get rid of that one. So I've got rocks and trail. And so the queue, this is, again, I've clicked up here to Task Center, and it will then show me a progress bar. Now that this is done, I'm going to open up Adobe Premiere Pro. It will give you a window, probably something like this. And I'm going to hit New Project. I'll leave it as Untitled. I'll choose my location, hit Select, and I will hit Create. And I'm going to skip the import mode because I don't think that's particularly useful. And that will then give you this window section here. I'm going to be using the workspace of effects, and this is a collection of windows that are open and arranged in particular order. And there's different workspaces. For example, this is editing, that's slightly different. Color is also different. So I'm going to be using the effects one. Any window you don't see, you can always look for it in the window menu if there's something that you're looking for. So now I'm going to import my media. And I like to just hit File, Import, rather than using the versions that they have on here, the buttons that they have. And here are the two Stitch videos that I made. And I'll start with the trail one here on the left, and I'll drag it into the timeline. And there it is side by side. So let's start looking at these video effects that are available. So I'm going to open up all of these effects. And the first ones we'll look at are the immersive video. These are specifically made for VR video. The first one is blur, and it does exactly what you think it will. If you drop it on, it will create VR blur here in your effects controls. And it starts with 0 blur, and you can make it as blurry as you want. And it will affect both left and right. And that works pretty well. If you don't want to have it in there any longer, you can click on it and just hit your delete button and it will go away. Next one, chromatic aberration. Let's drop that, and you can see now it's a little bit like looking through a prism where the red, green, and blue have been divided slightly. Now you can increase numbers here, like for example, the aberration of the red and the green and the blue separately, and really make it get strange. And remember that everything that has a clock, or a little watch, pocket watch, stopwatch, I guess that is, next to it means that you can change it over time. So for example, this gets very different. I'm using the green aberration right here. I can click on the stopwatch at the beginning of my clip and then go to the end of the clip and make the number very different. And that will create these two keyframes here, left and right, and change it over time. So I'll hit play, and you can see this changing now over time and getting bigger. And you can also move these keyframes. You can drag them if you need to, and then things will occur at different times. So you can also change the fall off distance to make it more radical, less radical, that sort of thing. So it's an interesting effect. So I'm going to click on it now and get rid of it. Color gradients, let's drop that on. And so it makes these actual gradient of color. The first thing you might want to do is you could either turn down the opacity of it, so it just sort of tints your video. And what's also interesting to do is to play with the blending mode of this particular one. For example, to go to multiply, and now it will do a much better job at just coloring certain areas. Let's change these points a little bit. Now that I'm clicking on the points, you can actually see the points right here, and you can move these around. So if you want to color certain areas and get an effect like that, you can get something like this, and it'll sort of tint your video. And again, I'm using the blending mode of multiply, which I think is more useful, and I'm playing also with the opacity. The next one is a denoise. And if I put the denoise on this one, it's not going to do much because I'm outdoors and everything looks fine. But if you shot some dark video and it's got a lot of digital noise, you can drag and drop that denoise onto your video, and you can change it so that it will take some of that noise out. Next one is digital glitch. And this one has this kind of a look to it where it looks like something is happening with the electronics and it's glitching the video. And you can play with these numbers here that are on it and make it more or less. Amplitude. And it's probably something you want to use sparingly. In fact, all of these effects are probably things you want to use sparingly. Often it's best to have a single concept and maybe use just one effect or maybe just a couple to explore a particular concept. Now, fractal noise, the next one down, completely changes the look of everything. This is really an image generator. And fractal noise generally looks like clouds, as you can see. And you can do things like change the brightness, and you can invert it, and you can change the complexity, make it more complex, and I can evolve it to change it. Now, the evolution is probably what's useful because it changes it over time. And so, for example, I might want to, I'm going to put this at the start of the video, hit the clock, and at the end of the video, I'm going to change the evolution so it looks very different. Well, not very different, but different than it was. And now when we play this, it will change like this. You get kind of a different look. You can also change the blending mode, for example. I'll hit multiply again, and now you'll see it over the top of the real video rather than completely taking over. If you change this blending mode, and also the opacity will do the same kind of thing. And you can play around with some of these blending modes. Like this is difference. Now it's doing kind of a color blend. And you can see what this looks like now over time. VR Glow will take bright spots that are in the video, like for instance right here, and give them a glow. You can change the radius so that it's smaller or bigger, for example. You can change the brightness, saturation. You can tint it. So I can click on a tint color here. Right now it's white, and make it like red, for example. And then say, use the tint color on the glow, and now it's putting a sort of a red tint on the glow of this cloud over here. The next one, plane the sphere, is when you've got a flat image that you would like to bring into the 180-degree headset environment. So I'm going to import an image right here, this hiker that I've got, and I'm going to drag him over the top here, and there's my hiker. And you're going to be tempted to want to move this hiker into a particular position by moving maybe the effects motions here where you've got position and scale, change the scale and all of that, but leave all of that alone for this flat image because you want to do this within the plane to sphere interface. So I'm going to drag that on top of my hiker, and that's immediately going to put it left and right. So that will show up in each eye as it's supposed to. I can rotate the projection. This is the last one that's in the plane to sphere. And I, for example, can pan it left and right. I can tilt it up and down. You see it kind of distorts because it needs to fit into the headset. And the roll will angle it. The other thing that might be useful here is the scale here. So I can make it bigger or smaller. So this is where you want to move things into position rather than doing it up top here like you would for standard video, because you need to be working within the spherical of your headset. So that's plane to sphere. To bring flat images into your video. Now what this is going to appear, it's not going to appear as all of a sudden this guy is 3D and you can see the depth of his backpack and his body and all of that. It's going to appear as if he's like a hologram that's just kind of standing there. So he's going to be sort of flat against the three-dimensionality of the what's been shot as 180 stereoscopic. Now on the other hand, if you are not stereoscopic, if everything is flat, then he won't look any different. He'll fit right in. And the rotate sphere, I'm going to come back to in just a moment. VR sharpen, it literally does sharpen the pixels. I'm going to drag and drop it. And if I want to sharpen it, it starts at 0. If I sharpen it a lot, it will sort of artificially make your focus even sharper by looking at pixels that are adjacent to each other and making them more unlike each other so that you get a bigger difference. So now let's look at the other video effects. Some of these are useful for VR 180 and a lot of them are not, because it needs to do the same thing on both sides. And a lot of these effects will do an overall effect of the entire window here, but it will look different between your left eye and your right eye, and so it won't really work unless you set it up where you do each individual eye separately, the left and the right. So I'm going to first look at adjust. You've got extract, levels, and lighting effects, and a process amp. The extract looks like kind of a hard black and white. Let's kind of drop that on. You can see that you've got a black input level, a white input level. You can play with these numbers and you can get this really super hard black and white look to it, which you may find kind of interesting. And you can also play with the softness here to add a little bit of gray so it's not quite so harsh. Levels is sort of a complex way. Here's all the levels here. I usually play with the ones here on top. Just kind of move these up a little bit. And you can see that it's going to make it more contrasty. And you can also brighten videos that are dark. So you can kind of move these numbers here with the black inputs to white inputs and the output level black and white. These ones below it you can play with, but it's mostly going to do that same thing to individual colors. And you may or may not find that useful. So this is much sharper. And by the way, if you want to see what the effect looks like with or without, if you look at the levels here or any one of these other effects where it says FX, you can turn that on and off to see the change that you've made. Now this, of course, looks a lot better as an image, but it will look a little artificial when you actually put on the headset. Next one is lighting effects, and that is one that won't work so well because it does it to the entire picture here. So the left and the right are different. So we're not going to look at that one. Process amp is interesting. I'll just drag and drop that one, especially if you do things like turn up the saturation. So you can get this kind of artificially high color saturation. And I'll turn the kind of the brightness down a little bit, make it more contrasty. And then you can also play with the hue, and get these really alien colors like this when you have your saturation way up. So you can really get some strange effects like this. So process amp is very interesting, often for making video art and visual effects. Blur and sharpen does exactly what you might think just by the names. So it will create blurs and the both sharpen and the unsharp mask, especially the unsharp mask, will do the best for sharpening. We'll just quickly look at that. Here's the unsharp mask, and I'm going to artificially sharpen this video. Now it's super sharp, but it will look a bit artificial when you put on the headset. So if you have some blurred video, you can get away with a little bit of sharpening with the unsharp mask and you won't really see it. Inverting the channel does a color inversion. Color correction is exactly as it seems. Some of the more useful ones are just playing with the brightness and sharpness right here. You can drag that on and you'll just have a standard brightness and contrast here. And you don't really want to do this a lot. I mean, I've done it a lot right here, but you can make big differences. And so you generally want to only do it a little bit. And you can see here it sharpened it up. Lumetri color is the most used for standard video. And this one is pretty complex and it's got some creative controls. There's basic correction. And you can give it particular looks from different cameras. You could hit auto if you want. You can reset it to have it come back. And then it has some more complex, different color. But this is where you do your real color correction, where you really want to get a particular look of your video. Now again, the more you play with these numbers and make them different from 0, the more artificial it will look in your headset. It's not quite the same as when you're using flat video and you can just get a kind of a tint and a look because of the fact that it's all around you and it seems more like an experience. It will seem like it's a bit artificial, although that could be useful in creating video art to kind of give you an alien experience. You can also use this interface down here, and it does kind of a similar thing, but more as in a visual interface. But it's best just to kind of play with this and see what the effect is. But this is your main color correction if you are needing to do that, is Lumetri color. Let's go to the next one, distort. So in distort, most of these are not going to work very well because they're going to distort the entire thing and the left and right eye will not match up. But one of the ones that I think could be useful is the mirror. So you can click on the mirror and then go to the reflection angle and make it like 90 degrees. We'll just make it a straight 90. I'm just going to click it and put in the number 90. And now you can actually get a bottom top mirroring effect, which could look pretty interesting. And it will still match up in your headset and look fine. So the mirroring may be useful. The rest of them, I'm going to leave alone. Generate, it generates actual imagery, like for example, the 4-color gradient. And that was very similar to the one that we saw that was in the immersive video. So we've already kind of looked at that. And this is pretty good if you use a blending mode. For example, that multiply. And these other ones I think I'm going to skip over as well because they don't work very well for 180. Image control, you have black and white. It's another black and white one, but I'm going to skip these other ones as well. We've looked at the immersive video, and this is where I think now I was going to come back to the VR projection and the rotate sphere. So let's bring a second video on top of here. I'm going to take the second video. That's these rocks right here. And I'm going to put it right on top of the first video. And I guess I don't really need this audio right now. If you want to delete the audio without affecting the video, you can right click, get this menu right here, and unlink the clips. And then you can choose just the video or the audio. I'm going to choose just the audio and hit delete. And so now I've got no audio at all. Okay, so this top one right here, let's say what I'd like to do is use a part of it on top of the video that's below it. And here's what I'm going to show you what I mean. So the top video, I'm going to go into the opacity right here. I'm going to leave it at 100%, but I'm going to create an ellipse mask right here on the left. And that's going to make a mask that I can drag around. But you'll see that it's only on the left side, and the left and right have to match so it resolves in your eyes. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to click on the mask right here in my left window, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it. I'm just right clicking. And now I've got two masks on top of each other that I can drag one of them over to the other side and try to match it up visually as best as possible, left and right, up and down, so that it will resolve in the left and right eye without looking strange. Another good thing to do when you have a mask like this is to feather the edges of it, so it looks a little bit like a hazy portal into another world. So here's the mask feather, and it's on both. You have to do it to both of them. So I'll start with one. Here's mask feather, and I'll turn it up and maybe get it around 180 or so. It's got 186. That looks pretty good here on the left. And then I'll repeat that number on the one on the right. Here's mask feather, and I'll just put that number in, 186, hit enter. And now I've got it left and right, looking a bit like a portal. And here it is without the video underneath it. But now what if I want to change where this image occurs in the overall video? This is where I could take, for example, the VR rotate sphere and drop it on here, the one on top. And let's look at rotate sphere. And I can use the tilt and the pan and the roll to rotate where it's going to go. I'll start with the pan. See, so I can move the pan here and get a different part of the video to show. Now, the reason why I didn't want to show it before I just use a piece of it like this, because if you go too far, it's going to create an edge like this. So it doesn't work very well just bare on its own. It works very well, though, in a situation like this, where you can get a different part of the video to show. So now I'm going to sort of blend it more with the one on the bottom. Right there. So you can see on the right here, it kind of blends in. And now I've created this world within a world. So that's the rotate sphere. You can also tilt it up and down, but again, you have a limit. Otherwise it starts to look a little strange. And you can roll it, which is tilting this direction. And get it just where you want it. The Insta360 only gives you a reframe, which means it's going to take flat video out of your 360 video. And so that's not particularly useful. You can add noise with the noise and grain. Well, this might be useful, especially the fine edges and the stylize. So let's just look at that. I'm going to get rid of this one here on top, and we'll just look at the video here on the bottom. So let's look at some of these. fine edges turns your video into kind of a line drawing right here. And it is a little bit weird in stereoscopic 3D because you lose a lot of depth, I guess, when you don't have color, when you just have this kind of line drawing. But it can create an interesting effect. So that's find edges. Posterize will take your number of colors down. You can have fewer colors. And here's your level, which is the number of colors. If I turn that down, I can have even fewer colors still. And so it kind of has a poster effect. These other ones, well, I'm going to leave them alone. I don't think they're particularly useful, at least for this kind of video. And these transitions, video transitions, block dissolve, gradient white, linear wipe. This is transition from one video to another. And so now we just have these two videos that are one up against the other. And let's say I want to create a transition. So these video transitions are something you want to do over time. Like, for example, a block dissolve. If you want to dissolve your video and eventually end up with another video, I'm going to put this on here on the first video. And right now it's not doing anything. I'm going to turn this transition complete number up so you can see how it dissolves the video into blocks like this. So let's say at the very end of the video, I wanted to do a block dissolve. So I will hit the clock at 0. And then at the end of the video, I will go to 100%. And so it will, in time, dissolve this into blocks. And then I would probably want to do the same thing with the next video, but the opposite order. So I'll take this block dissolve and put it on there. And again, I will set the clock right here a little later than the beginning of it at 0, and now start it at 100%. And now we'll see how one dissolves into the next. So we'll start with this. It block dissolves and undissolves into the next video. So that's the block dissolve. So the block dissolve is useful. The gradient wipe and the linear wipe will go all the way across the screen, so it will not be useful. We don't need this utility, and we don't need this one either. Some of these transitions additive dissolve, these go in between two videos like this. You just drag it in between two of them. But that's an additive dissolve where it kind of brightens up really quick by adding. And that's how it gets from one clip to the next. If you don't like it, you can delete it. I'll do a cross dissolve real quick. It also thinks I don't have enough media to really do this properly. You need, in other words, a longer video clip. And that's a cross dissolve. And this is your standard dissolve where it fades from one to the next. And you can pull these longer on either side. There we go. Making it take longer to do the dissolve between the two. Dip to black is another one where it will go to black and then come up from black. Dip to white, same thing, but going to white instead of black. Let's try a film dissolve. Looks like a standard transition. The dissolves, I think, will work just fine. A lot of the other ones, like the page peel, for example, is going to do the whole video screen, so it's not going to be so useful. So I think that is enough for now in video effects, kind of giving you just a survey of all the effects that are available. There's, of course, a lot more, and you can play with them. Some will be useful for VR, some won't, depending upon whether it does the same thing and matches the left and the right eye. So that's it for video effects.